Hi. I want to share an experience I had with my dad's passing, and this has been back in 1988, and in my early 20s. And he was actually living down in Florida, and I was living up in West Virginia, and I had a couple businesses at the time, and so we got a phone call, and his wife, my stepmom, had taken him into the hospital, and they thought he had like flu-like symptoms. This would have been in March of '88, and down in Fort Lauderdale. And so within a couple days later, she'd called us back, and they diagnosed him with this cancer. Can't remember the name of it now. I'm not good with sickness names. I'm better with healing names. And so they started doing chemo on him. And so just within a couple days, he started deteriorating. And both my brothers were living down in Florida at the time, and I was living in West Virginia. And so his case, he was getting worse and worse. So it was just several days later, and I was in my my house, and at probably around 10:30, 11 o'clock, and I just felt like I just needed to go just lay in the bathtub. I just felt weak. And I felt drained, like life was coming out of me. And so I don't know, I was in there maybe an hour or so, and I got out, dried off, put my clothes on. It was around midnight. I couldn't really go to sleep, and there's a knock at my door. And it's a friend of the family's. His name is Ronnie, and he was really good Christian, really good, just a really pure, clean guy, just awesome in the Lord. Knocking on the door, and I looked at him, and I knew my dad had passed. He came in, and I just kind of lost it. And my parents had gone through a divorce, when I was in high school, and my dad ended up moving to Florida, and I felt like, there's things kind of missing. I had some unfinished things I didn't get from my dad, and even though he was, further away, 800-900 miles away, but we talked and everything, but I lost it. And the only thing I could do was just pack a few clothes, and Ronnie, and there was a few other people who'd come with him from the church, and he says, no, you need to just I couldn't rest. No. And I nothing anybody could have done to stop me. And I just, I was going to get in it was a white Chevrolet, I think it was a 1988 Chevrolet S10 pickup truck. You can only sit 3 people in the front, 1, 2, 3, that was it. And I didn't. I loaded that truck up, and I headed out after midnight. And the only thing I knew, I had to get to my dad. And even though he was gone, but I still had to be there. And so I just got up, and nothing they could have done to stop me. And I got in that truck and took off, and I was on the turnpike in West Virginia, and maybe 1:30 in the morning, 2 o'clock. Then next thing I know, there's red lights behind me, and I was crying. I think I cried the whole way down there. I know I did. And So I pulled over. A trooper pulled me over, and he says, you were speeding. And now I was just, crying, and I told him, what had happened. And I didn't have to get into a lengthy conversation. And he says, just slow down. And that was the Lord right there, because I hit that gas pedal and I made it in record time. I made that trip many times, and I made it around 13 hours and never saw a cop after that. Nowhere. All those states down through there. So we had a lot of family members down there already. And I remember when we finally got to the funeral home, something kind of weird had happened when I was still I was really close to my dad, and he was, especially, through my sports careers, at that time, he was shaping me, informing me, especially with golf. He owned a golf course, and that's how I got into golf. And I remember, and he was also, we grew up in Dad owned a funeral home, so we grew up in a mortuary. And so it's a whole nother story. And so I made it back to see him. We were allowed to go back and see him, and he wanted to be cremated. He already had all his funeral arrangements in order. And I remember when I went back to the coffin, I had, kind of leaned up over the coffin and, Dad. And it kind of pulled me away, and I didn't want my dad to go. And I was beyond hurt. I never experienced a loss like that at that early of an age. And I remember when they pulled me away, my left arm, this is the weird thing that happened. I couldn't unfold it. It like stuck to me. And so they had pulled me out in the room, and they had a couple people. It wasn't like I was like really strong and hopeful. I kept telling myself, I can't move my arm. I couldn't straighten out my arm. So later that evening, we had stayed at my grandparents'. They had a house down there too, and they were already down there. They went down there in the wintertime and had a place up in West Virginia. A place in West Virginia this summer. And we got up the next morning, and I remember my grandmother, Marcia, she said, asked my brother, why'd you have the light on in your room all night last night? And he never had no light on. There was like this bright light. So we never knew really what that, maybe an angel, but a bright light in his room on all night. And so we end up, taking care of the funeral arrangements with my father. And and that started, and I was really upset with God. And I really got mad for taking my father away. And when I came back to West Virginia, I made several trips up into the mountains by myself, and yelled and screamed, and but God's presence was there. He started me on a whole new journey, getting to know Him better, and so I just wanted to share that, get that out, and hope that could have been a help to you. Thank you. Have a good day.